Hi, this is Jason McCarthy at Wycombe Wanderers, and you're listening to Wycombe Sound.
The Wycombe Wanderers Show.
Good evening, welcome to the latest edition of the Wycombe Wanderers Show. If you've been listening in previous weeks, you'll know that Bob's been in America. Well, there was 1 week where he wasn't in at all. He was in the sky.
I was listening on a plane.
Yeah, really?
Yes,
oh,
I
yeah,
was.
because you said
I did. I was listening live on a plane.
But as you may be able to tell, he's back with us.
Hello.
Welcome
I'm here
back.
in downtown High Wycombe. It's very exciting.
As they'd call it if you were in America.
Indeed. Almost as good as being in downtown New Orleans.
How was your trip?
It was really good, thank you. I had a wonderful time. The weather was lovely. I kept checking in with home, and they kept saying how horrible the weather was over here. So that always makes your trip a bit more special as well.
And part of it, you paid homage to Louisiana.
I did indeed. So I spent 3 days in Louisiana, which is a lovely bit of the world, and I can thoroughly recommend it. Whenever you see those adverts going up at Adams Park saying all about Louisiana, it's as good as they make it sound. I had a wonderful time staying in New Orleans, and also then taking a trip to Baton Rouge and also St. Francisville.
And you caught some sport while you were out there as well?
I did see quite a lot of sport, despite the fact that the baseball players were on strike, which was one of the reasons for going, which was slightly annoying. But
strike?
They were on strike, yes.
Like the pitcher?
No, exactly. No, that's not a baseball term. They were actually genuinely on strike. And of course, the day that I came back, they've stopped the strike, that was very kind. They just didn't want me to see any baseball while I was out there. But I did end up seeing 2 college baseball games, 3 basketball games, and 4 ice hockey games.
That's very impressive.
Quite a lot of sport while I was out there.
We'll chat more about Bob's trip in a few moments' time. Of course,
I promise it will be about Wycombe Wanderers as well.
Went to the home of the Couhigs. We'll hear some of his chat with Rob as well. You went to Missy's bookshop as well.
I did, yes, the Conundrum,
which has a Wycombe Wanderers section.
It does have a Wycombe Wanderers section. Wycombe Wanderers books and Wycombe Wanderers t-shirts are on sale at the Conundrum in St. Francisville. If you are ever in Louisiana, definitely pop in and say hello.
We'll reflect against the draw with the league leaders Rotherham. We'll look back at Tuesday night's last gasp victory.
Oh, goodness me.
At home, don't leave Adams Park early. Against Fleetwood. We'll assess the game against Portsmouth as well. We'll hear from manager Gareth Ainsworth, and we'll catch up with former striker Dennis Greene, who, amongst other things, will be talking us through the changing length of shorts during his time at the club.
Which makes him sound like he played for years and years and years. Like sort of, he started in the 1960s when they were really long shorts, and then played during the 1980s when they were really short shorts.
That was a brilliant period, wasn't it? When they used to do the commentary ahead of the goal. They went, it's a goal, and then you'd see the goal score.
And then the goal would fly in.
And everyone had bowler hats and wore suits.
Oh, wonderful, yes,
games,
yeah. And if they scored a goal, then they'd all throw their bowler hats up in the air.
And look at them now.
Yes, I know.
Shaven-headed yobs who've... Where did it go so wrong? Anyway.
Want to bring drums into the ground and aren't allowed.
Tell us about your trip.
My trip was wonderful. It was really, really good. The New Orleans bit being an absolute highlight. A big thank you to the Couhig family for welcoming me with such welcome arms. It was very, very, very sweet of them. And it was just so cool. It was great to be there and just sit and chat to Rob. And he's fantastic because he'll talk about anything, and he's completely happy for you to record it all, because I do say, is there anything, big, and as you often do, and have to on radio, is there anything you don't necessarily want me to talk about, particularly when you're sitting in someone's front room? You feel like, that's only fair. It's like, no, you can ask me anything you want, record it all. I knew that there's been quite a lot on, say, the Facebook groups about the fact that the season ticket holders who had wavered their refunds for last year were sort of promised the party to end all parties, and that still hasn't happened. So I asked him about that, and he was very, very forthcoming about that. I asked him about the bad run that we'd just been on, and whether or not, do you ever feel like you're slightly thinking, well, maybe we could get another manager in? And again, he answered really, really honestly, which I really appreciated. And sitting there and looking him in the eye, I do completely believe him, and I do think that if Gareth wants to stay at Wycombe Wanderers for the next 20 years, he probably can.
That's fantastic. And I'm not just saying this because you're here, but although I wouldn't probably say it was terrible, but it's a really brilliant insight. I haven't listened to it all, but we'll put it on the whole thing. It's very sort of Louis Theroux-y.
It is a bit, yes.
It's like Bob with the Couhigs.
It's my new career.
It's a bit like you sort of moved in with them, but they do make you feel very welcome. Some interesting things to kind of highlight, which I was really, because it's a nice way to find out about the owners of a football club anyway, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
And to know about how close a family they are, to know that they have their own bees and to have their own honey, and that
Rob is good at making cups of tea, even though he says that he's not. And he does do that.
He's very into Inspector Morse.
He is very into Inspector Morse.
Missy likes Downton.
You can find out all of these things. Yes, they will be on the podcast. They're not things that we're going to broadcast tonight, because and that's part of the reason that I wanted you, and it was very kind of you to say that you would edit the interview for me, because I thought, well, if I had, I'm just going to think, oh no, I'll leave all of this in because it's all great, whereas you actually went through it with a Wycombe Wanderers sort of like, magnifying glass and said, well, we'll have that bit. Oh no, we're not going to have the bit about Missy liking Downton Abbey because that's not really relevant.
No, but you're very welcome to hear that. There'll be a podcast on where you get your podcast from. You'll be able to hear the whole thing, and it's Louis Therounis. And we'll give you more chance to hear more of Bob's chat with Rob Couhig next week as well. But a couple of topics that are covered in the chat are including how impressed Rob is with the stadium improvements. But first, here's the latest on the Derby County situation.
I don't know a heck of a lot more than everybody else who picks up the paper in the morning and wants to see what the administrator's latest pronouncement is.
Okay, yeah.
I can say that the last time I went over, which was 2 or 3 weeks ago, I had a brief conversation for the first time since November with the administrator. They gave us some idea of what they would be prepared to recommend, but they didn't have any authority because they're not doing anything, and I told them that I would send them back a response, which I did the next day, and that I would look to hear from them. Hello?
Okay, so you're still waiting.
Yeah.
And so is it right that they've now settled with Middlesbrough?
That's what they say. Take this the right way. I take everything that happens with that whole situation with a ton of salt, because I don't know if anybody really knows what's going on. Mm-hmm. When it first happened, let me go back. When we played Middlesbrough and we beat them on the last day of the season, and we ended up 1 point behind, I told the gaffer that as far as I was concerned, was likely we were going to be in the championship, that they had obviously bended the rules, to say it nicely, and that there was a points deduction that should be given immediately. So I wasn't surprised when the league came out with 2 different schedules, because it made sense.
Yeah.
And
completely unprecedented in my knowledge of football, going way back to 1982 when I started, really, really studying it. I don't think that's ever been done before.
And one of the reasons is because the difference was so clear, so minute between us. The timing was the only issue. And so the league, in its defense, needed to be prepared. And the judgment of the panel had said, at the latest, Derby needed to file their new financials under the agreed scheme by August the 14th, which was a week or 2 after the season began. Most rational people knew that they were going to file it and they would immediately be deducted the penalties. So the league wanted to be prepared. I pushed and wanted to be prepared. People forget this. They didn't file them by August the 14th. We could have, I don't know that the league would have agreed, but I suspect they would have, switched places as late as August the 14th or even the 21st, because what most people don't realize, Derby and we had exactly the same record up until August the 21st or thereabouts. Yeah. And so it would have been no harm, no foul, and off we could have gone. The reason I feel particularly aggrieved for our club is Mel Morris acknowledging that he deliberately didn't want to file him because he knew the moment he did there would be a points deduction. Mm-hmm. So that's what makes ours different than most. It's not a question of, well, if the league had done X, Y, or Z, it is that he, following a pattern, he deliberately avoided his responsibility. It created a £16 million loss for us if you go at a minimum over 2 years. Now, look, we're rational people. You're not going to get £16 million from a deadbeat company, but there is something to be had there. And I can't get into what we've told them, but it's a rational settlement could be had. or we'll go try the thing. And if we try it, we're going to end up with a very substantial judgment, and that's what people don't understand. Doesn't matter to me if it makes sense to settle it, but if we don't, we'll take our chances and off we go.
Is there a sense of Derby doing that normal thing of thinking it's little Wycombe Wanderers, so therefore actually we're going to try? It was interesting to me that, and I know you said you take it with a pinch of salt, that they've already said that they've settled with Middlesbrough. Now, going back a long time before you were getting into football, Derby and Middlesbrough are probably old friends from the old First Division days, and whereas they probably look at Wycombe as being this little club, possibly in their words, certainly not mine, that maybe didn't deserve to even be in the Championship that season, so why should we give them any money?
No question about it. And their perception was, they had a known quantity in Steve Gibson and Middlesbrough. As you say, they've known each other forever. I think they've changed their mind. I think they did a little research. I am not, I found it amusing missing
a little research about you and your background.
One weekend, something particularly egregious was said by somebody, and so we had 500 people from Derby emailing us, Twittering us, hoping that for the worst possible outcomes for our health and the like. And you almost had to laugh. I felt sorry for the people, but who did they think they were dealing with?
Sure.
Oh my gosh, they've intimidated me. I give up. What people don't understand, I take my responsibility seriously. It's not just for me. 25% of the club's owned by the trust. I owe it to them. And as my wife will tell you, half of my 75% is owned by her. I better take it serious for her.
Yeah.
They knew that if they fulfill their obligation, they would be now in League One trying to sell a League One club for £50 million, with the likelihood that they're going to get deducted because they would have had the points deduction. What they should have done they did what they needed to do. If it had been me, I would have gone in, I would have thrown myself at the mercy of the EFL. I would have said, pound me for every point you can possibly think of, but do it now, send me down so that I can go out and sell this club as a clean League One club with a beautiful stadium, with a beautiful manager, and we'll take our chances of going up again.
Yeah.
And they would have been back in the Championship in all likelihood this year or next year.
Yeah. Talking then of League One, how is this season going for Rob Couhig?
I enjoy it. Look, being able to get back and be with the fans is huge. I really like what we have done off the pitch. The redo of the training ground has been sensational. I don't know that people understand why we would spend the money we did on it, but from my perspective, it's where the players and coaches have their office. It's where they go to do the 95% of their work that comes across on a Sunday or a Saturday.
Yeah, it is their workplace, really.
It is.
We think of it as the stadium, but actually that's not true.
Right. They spend
ground.
3 hours every 2 weeks at the stadium. Yeah. They spend 40 hours a week or 50 hours a week at the training grounds. So we wanted it to be nice. And look, the trust membership and volunteers have done great, but we've got that. For the first time, they actually have good Wi-Fi without Mr. Musk's help. He says with a certain bitterness. But they have a new media room. They have enough room for the coaches. With Pete and I were talking about, we have a 50% bigger coaching staff than we did when we came in. We have 50% more trainers and the like than we did when we came in. We have analysts that didn't exist when we came in. We have a squad that's 15 people bigger than it ever was. And then at the stadium itself, my frustration is I don't know if people understand how huge the change is and how comparatively good our stadium is to every other stadium, not just not just League One stadiums, but virtually top to bottom with our technology. Not just, we got a great scoreboard, but half of the League One teams have a great scoreboard. We have the state-of-the-art LED boards that go around. 2 or 3 premier clubs have that same state-of-the-art. So I can't say we're unique on that. The combination in League One puts us apart. Mm-hmm. We have brand new floodlights, something I never thought would be big, but it's huge. And I give my man Trevor Stroud, he said, we got to have floodlights, okay? You can be in charge. Get us the floodlights. And if you notice, sometimes after we score, they'll do the little, that's Trevor.
Oh, definitely,
The speaker system is truly state-of-the-art, and I blame my brother Kevin for that. Kevin owned a company by the name of PreSonus, and you'll see the PreSonus.
Of course, yeah.
Kevin, as a gift, gave us $30,000 worth of speakers. As I told him, thanks a lot, it's ended up costing me $1.5 million because those speakers weren't what was actually needed for inside the stadium. We had to change out the entire inside so that we now have the best speaker system of a stadium in the UK. And when we did that, we had to change out our CCTV. So we now have you can look at your face as you're coming down Hill Bottom Road towards the stadium.
And you can say, hey, it's Bob from Wycombe Sound.
That's exactly. This guy's nothing but trouble. and we can pinch point everybody, and we have 2 sets of phone systems and all that. And the thing that's most remarkable, and I didn't understand this, is that in the UK, apparently broadband access, Wi-Fi access in stadiums is still relatively spotty.
Basically, our ground is one of the very, very few that you can use the Wi-Fi, and that's a huge thing for any football fan.
Everybody there can use it at the same time. As a result, we have had, Chelsea came, but I suspect they're not in the market today to buy it. But we've had a half a dozen Premier League clubs come and look at our system. We've had innumerable lower league clubs come and Championship League One clubs come and look at it because it's spectacular. But we don't do a good job of, and maybe we do a good job of advertising, and maybe I miss how I'm just so impressed with it myself. I want everybody to be impressed with it.
Wycombe Wanderers co-owner and chairman Rob Couhig speaking in his natural environment.
We are, Rob. We are very impressed. Every time I go to Adams Park, I do think it's amazing that the Wi-Fi does work in a football stadium, because in so many other stadiums it doesn't.
Speaking to Bob in Louisiana, and obviously fantastic. He's very, very proud of the upgrades which have happened at the ground.
Yes, we're very impressed as well with his pronunciation of Middlesbrough and also Premier.
Another chance for you to hear more of Bob's chat with Rob on next week's show, and also keep an eye out, I suppose so, or ear possibly,
yes.
On the
Louis Theroux type. Bob visits the Couhigs.
Yeah. It soon might get commissioned into its own TV show,
where I go and visit various football chairmen around the world.
Exactly.
Not Newcastle, so
make sure you don't miss that. Still to come. No. No, definitely not there. Still to come on the Wycombe Wanderers Show this week, we'll hear from manager Gareth Ainsworth and former striker Dennis Greene next.
Online, on Radio Player, and on 106.6 FM. This is Wycombe Sound.
Still to come on the Wycombe Wanderers Show, we'll reflect on the draw against league leaders Rotherham. Good result?
Yeah, I think that was an okay point. Or certainly, it would have been earlier on in the season.
And the game that continued our unbeaten run to 4 League One games, which puts us a bit more in touching distance of the top 6. That last gasp winner against Fleetwood.
Yes, and goodness me, had we not won that one, then I think we would be sitting here slightly saying, well, that wouldn't have been a great result. But it doesn't matter. And don't leave early, because yes, we managed to get one right at the very end to ensure that we did take 3 points against troubled Fleetwood.
But first, I've been speaking to former Wycombe Wanderers striker Dennis Greene. I must point out that this was recorded on the same day that Grantham parted company with him as their manager, but that happened after we spoke. But there's some very humorous moments in our chat, including how he first became a player at the club.
I caught wind of it. I was playing for Chelmsford at the time. I can not vaguely remember, but I was playing in a cup match away. I think it was Grantham or Spalding or someone like that, and we got to a penalty shootout. And while I was waiting, like in line, like with all the players for a penalty shootout, this guy ventures onto the pitch. He must have been a scout of some kind. And he said, "Would you be interested in going to Wycombe?" And then about a week later, Wycombe made contact. Initially, when I was at Chelmsford, that they then got an embargo put on them when Wycombe had made an approach. And we had to wait 3 months. I spoke to Martin a couple of times, and once the embargo was lifted, 3 months later, Martin signed us in February, and I went to Wycombe.
That's quite interesting, isn't it? Because you can't imagine that happening to players these days, or perhaps it does. Just someone approaching you on the pitch.
Yeah, that's exactly how it was. I can't exactly remember what he said, but it was along them lines that basically, because obviously I was under contract at Chelmsford, so it was just seeing whether I'd be interested. I mean, I didn't even know where Wycombe was at the time. But, yeah, obviously Martin O'Neill was the manager. Wycombe was looking to do good things, so it was a no-brainer for me.
So what were your first impressions when you arrived?
Oh, it's fabulous, because obviously they'd gone into the new stadium from Lopes Park. So when I arrived up there and see the stadium, I mean, the pitch wasn't in too good condition at that stage. About a year later, it had fully recovered. But where it was a new pitch, the first season they had there, the pitch got quite heavy. But the actual stadium obviously was fantastic. The support was excellent. I mean, at the end of that season, I think it was averaging like 6,000 a week.
And something that fans might not realise that I was reading is that you were a member of the Magic Circle and doing some stand-up comedy. But unfortunately, the manager said you had to put a stop to that. Yeah,
I think that was my downfall in the end. I can remember going away to a game at Dover, and I think I was in my second season then. I played in pretty much every game up to that point, and we got to Dover away with about the year we won the trophy. It was around about 10 games to go, and got in the dress of name the team, and I wasn't in the team or even in the squad. And I was back on the coach, sort of like towel between my legs, and Martin came up on the coach, come and sat next to me before we left, and just said, you know, basically, if you want to play football, you need to give up comedy nights.
Not the sort of disappearing actor that you wanted.
No, exactly right. So I think he made me disappear at the end on the back of that.
It must have been such a special time to be at the club, though, with obviously getting promotion to the Football League and obviously the trophy win as well.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, and such good friends. We still stay in contact to this day, 25 years later. You know, I had a long-running friendship with, like, Steve Guppy, Gary Smith, you know, Simon Stapleton, Glyn Creaser. You know, we're always meeting up annually. We had a lot of like vet games or charity games that we had at the football club. Ryan. So it was a group that stayed. Dave Carroll, I took him over to Windsor, Keith Scott. So it was a group of players that really stuck together for a long period of time.
And obviously in those days playing such an attacking style of football, which obviously suited your game as well.
Yeah, I used to just hang around the box. I wasn't doing too much really, but yeah, surely it certainly suited me. And where was winning most weeks, there was always opportunities to be had. But it was stiff competition, you know, where Keith Scott, Kim Casey, Mark West, myself, all vying for pretty much one position, because Keith Scott, being the 6'2" big man that Martin liked to play up front, it was just little runners that went off of Keith that was always fighting for one place. So you had to be on it each week, otherwise you was losing your spot.
Are there any particular games or occasions or even goals that really stand out for you?
I think one of the things that sticks out for me, I hadn't been there long, because I think when I joined in February, I ended up scoring something like 14 goals in about 12 matches in that period when I first joined. And then I got an injury and I was out for about 4 games and came back with a couple of games to go. But in that initial period, I'd scored a few goals, and being the character I was quite bouncing around and was on the coach to Altrincham. And Martin just said to me, you know, Dennis, don't get too carried away, because you never know when your next goal's coming. And we ended up winning 4-0 away, and I scored all 4 that night. So I obviously gave Martin something back on the coach on the way home. But yeah, I think that initial period was really good when I first joined there.
It's really nice to hear those sort of behind-the-scenes stories, isn't it? And for fans to know what kind of the manager was like to play under as well. Yeah,
he was just excellent. You know, he was always honest with you. You knew where you stood. If you didn't give everything and you didn't perform, you wasn't in the team. But if you was in the team, he was always, you know, good to you, praising you, but keeping your feet on the ground. So I think Martin was really good at things like that.
And how special was it being at the club at the time when they went from the conference, obviously winning the conference and being promoted to the Football League as well?
Well, it's unbelievable. I think it's still remembered to this day as probably one of the even though they've been in the Football League ever since we got up, but it's been recognised as that group we had has been one of the best groups I've had at the football club. That Martin era has always been remembered, and a lot of them players, 4, 5, 6 of them players stayed on for a number of years after that. When you think of Cousins and Carroll and Ryan, a lot of players from winning the conference went up a couple of divisions as well. So it was a really special group of players. Great to be at the club for 2.5, 3 years at that time, and thoroughly enjoyed it. And like I say, made some really good friends. A lot of them players that come from lower divisions, playing non-league football, and then just seen young players, like I think Gups was only 19, 20 when he joined. Keith Ryan was only young. A lot of players there were young, just developing their careers, but fulfilled their potential and played a lot of league football. So just a really special group that was. Fond memories, and like I say, got firm friends for life from it.
And you personally and the team as well got great support from the fans. Quite big crowds in those days. Yeah,
it's incredible. When I first went there, was probably averaging 2,500, 3,000. But then in that first year, when we lost to Colchester, level on points but lost on goal difference, the crowds at the end, we had quite a few games that was full houses at 6,000. And that carried on into the following year. So the support was incredible. I remember we went up to Gateshead, and I think we took about 800 up to Gateshead. So, the support was phenomenal for a non-league side. I think it was unrivalled at the time, the support we was getting. Obviously, as the years have gone on, there's been some big teams now that have gone to the National Conference and getting big gates when you look at Wrexham, Stockport and teams like that now. But at the time, Wycombe was the largest supported team around.
And especially the trophy final, it felt like the whole town went.
Yeah, I can't exactly remember. It was around 38,425, I think. I can't exactly remember, but yeah, it was an amazing day. That unfortunately, playing that trophy final, like I said, that was the year the comedy came about, and like I said, I played in the semi-final, played in all the other rounds, and like I say, that unfortunate game away at Dover when Martin broke the news to me that I need to stop what I was doing, and by then I sort of fell out of favour, so I didn't even make the squad, but I was there, I was with the team, I was on the pitch and celebrated with them, obviously, as they was all my teammates, and we wanted to win, but unfortunately I didn't play on that day.
It's not funny, I suppose, but in a way it's quite nice that your playing was stopped by comedy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but I mean, you're young and you're doing different things, and we was only part-time at the time, so, it wasn't my full-time living. And the following year when we went up, we progressed into full-time. The part-time contracts went to full-time, but at that time, we was only part-time, so I think I was 26 or something like that at the time, and, even though I took football seriously, it wasn't my living. I had a job alongside the football, so, yeah, I mean, if that's an excuse. But I just enjoyed doing it. It only lasted about 3 months, and Martin put a stop to it.
Was it something you were sort of tempted to take up again?
I had to give it up. Everyone kept laughing at me.
Yeah, you don't want that in comedy, do you?
No, absolutely.
It's obviously disappointing to be leaving the club, but what sort of happened to you after that? You went on to do pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, at the bottom line is, I think at the end of my contract, or when I was coming to the end, I was then 27. I was offered to stay on, obviously, in a full-time capacity, but I had a job alongside that, and my wages at that time was only increasing by £100 a week to go full-time, and I'd have been losing out on the full-time job that I had, so I decided to leave Wycombe and go to Dagenham and stay part-time. So I went from League 2 was at the time to Dagenham.
And since, obviously, you made the transition to management, how did you find that?
Yeah, I've been doing management now for about 20 years. I was finishing up my playing days at Windsor and Eton when I was about 37, and the job became available, and the chairman asked me to take it over. I never ever thought I was really going to stay in it, but done quite well at it, and I've been in it ever since for my sins, because now social media's got involved. I remember back then in the day, even playing at Wycombe, you just pick up the paper on a Thursday and read how you got on in the eyes of everybody else in the newspaper. But now you see it on social media, so there's nowhere to hide anymore with regards to football, because you have these trolls and these fans that, if you lose football matches as a manager, it's your fault, and if you win football matches, the players have done well. So you never seem to get too much credit when you're a manager.
And really nice as well that you're able to take your former teammates from Wycombe to Windsor as well.
Yeah, I did. I took Keith Scott, Dave Carroll and Jason Cousins. We had a really successful team there. I think when we took them over, was bottom of the league. Took over from Byron Walton, I think was bottom of the league. Only had about 4 points. Managed to survive that year, and then the following year we got promoted. And then the following year, I think, was around about 8th in the table when I left and went to Maidenhead.
And we find you at Grantham now, so you're obviously still enjoying it.
Yeah, still enjoying it. Football's in your blood. It is very stressful. There's so many complications during a football season. You're dealing with a lot of young players, some of them 18, 19, and it's hard to manage them at times because they're growing lads. They want to go and do other things. They're only part-time, do you know what I mean? Like, you've got to keep control of them, get them eating right, get them staying in on a Friday night, and they have these temptations. And, it's very difficult to manage at certain levels of non-league football. But yeah, I enjoy it. Obviously, football's a results-based business, so every job you go into, you never know how long you're going to be there. You're always 5 defeats away from losing your job. But yeah, it's difficult, but I enjoy it, and I'll probably do it until I can't do it anymore, I suppose.
Have you come across any players who are keen to do stand-up comedy, and you've had to take them aside and say, look, you need to focus on your football?
Yeah, if I come across, I haven't yet, but if I come across one, I'll tell them not to bother.
So learn from your mistakes.
Absolutely.
And really nice as well, obviously, with the Ex-Players Association, and that you're able to keep in touch with, obviously, former teammates, but also those from sort of different generations and share what they've gone through as well.
Yeah, I've been up a few times. Sometimes with me playing, managing football, and geographically where I am now, I'm about 2.5 hours from the club, it's not always possible, but I generally try and get to the November annual do over there. We generally, over the years, we've had a football match once or twice a year that we get to meet up with the players, but we'll go down to London and have dinner and meet up. So, yeah, there's always something going on at Wycombe. Wycombe's a special club. All their ex-players, if I phoned up today and said I want to come football Saturday, they leave you a ticket. They generally introduce you at half-time. So they always look after their ex-players. So it's one of them special clubs.
It's something that's really, it's hard to describe, isn't it, what's so special about Wycombe? But you speak to players who've represented the club, and it seems to sort of stand out more than other teams they've played for.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I was probably... our group was one of the lucky ones, because when you're winning something at a football club, you get a special bond with the club and with the players. It's different if you're at a football club and you get relegated. You might only be there as a player for 6 months because the manager's probably got rid of you. But we had a group that managed to stay together, so we certainly had a special bond. But even 20, 25 years later, the football club in the main has been very successful when you think of the promotions it's had or the near misses over the years. I think, they've been... For the position they're in financially, I think they've done incredibly well. I mean, to get up to the Championship was just unbelievable.
And does it feel really special to have been a part of, as you say, the team that got into the Football League as well?
Yeah, of course. And what's nice now is, as the kids are growing up, I used to play for Wycombe, and like when they're in the Championship, and then everyone thinks I was a Championship player, so it looks even better.
No, definitely. And you can tell them that you had a mild stand-up comedy career as well.
Absolutely, very, very mild.
Brief, perhaps, is the best way to describe it.
Absolutely.
And how do you look back generally on your time at the club, sort of overall?
It's just really fond memories. Can't put anything bad about the club. Everybody there, from Ivor Beeks to Martin O'Neill, all the backroom staff, the players, everything about that football club was fantastic. And like I say, every time I've been there, they've made me feel welcome. So if any player ever phoned me about Wycombe Wanderers or going there, I would always support it. It's a really special football club.
Does it feel like a long time ago that you were there, or comparatively recently?
Yeah, it don't, I look back sometimes and, like, you see them, they flash things up on Twitter in a game you're involved with, and they go, like, 25 years ago, blah, blah, blah. And you think, Christ, 25 years. But, it's like, if you still feel healthy, it's only your face looks older. The rest of your time, you still feel like you're 25 half the time. But, yeah, it don't seem that long ago.
It seems funny, doesn't it, when you look at certain generations, you think, oh, their shorts are very short, or, different styles of the time. It does feel like a long time ago then, I guess. Yeah,
we had that transition at Wycombe. When I first joined Wycombe, we had the shorts right the way up, and then the following year, these long shorts came in. But I don't think the girly supporters liked it so much. I think they preferred the short shorts. But, yeah, at Wycombe, I was certainly in that transition from short shorts to long shorts in the space of a season. That's what makes you remember when the shorts changed.
See, another part of history for you there.
Absolutely. I could. If somebody told me when the shorts changed from shorts to long, I could tell them it was 1991.
Here's an example of Dennis Greene in short and then long shorts.
I've seen the pictures. 1991, it was short shorts. 92, it wasn't.
Fantastic to speak to you. Thank you so much indeed for your time.
My pleasure.
Online, on Radio Player, and on 106.6 FM. This is Wycombe Sound.
Final part of the Wycombe Wanderers Show still to come. We'll hear from manager Gareth Ainsworth as we look back on the two games since we last spoke and look ahead to the trip to Portsmouth on Saturday, which you have news of.
Indeed, yes. If you were planning on going to Portsmouth on Saturday and you haven't got a ticket, well, I'm very sorry, but the tickets have now all sold out. Yes, if you haven't got a ticket, then you will just have to enjoy it from home.
And continuing our notice board section, we mentioned last week that Wycombe Wanderers women had their last game of the season. It was a rearranged fixture, the 13th of March, or Sunday as it was better known.
They went down 3-2 to the Winchester City Flyers, and as you say, that is their last game of the season. However, the division does continue because lots of games were postponed because of COVID and the weather and whatever. So in the Southern Region Women's Football League, Wycombe Wanderers currently 6th, having played all 16 games with 10 points. Just below them are the Winchester City Flyers, but they've got 3 games in hand and have 9 points. Then it's Oxford City, who have 2 games in hand, 6 points, and Woodley United, 3 games in hand with 3 points. So there's still a chance that Wycombe Wanderers women could finish bottom, but I don't think that's going to happen.
No, fingers crossed for a decent finish to the campaign there. Moving on then to the men's first 11, as people rarely call them. They were playing the league leaders Rotherham last Saturday, and as mentioned earlier on in the show, I guess a creditable point.
Yes, yeah, definitely. And I think, before the bad run, we would have said, 0-0 against Rotherham, team at the top of the table, that's perfectly acceptable. Could have done with the 3 points, of course, but we'll take a 0-0 draw against them.
I think Joe Jacobson said in his post-match interview, which you can hear on Wanderers TV in full, that they're two very similar sides. Yeah, definitely. And you feel that Rotherham maybe have just grasped the bull by the horns at the right time, shall we say. And just their form has been fantastic, really, since Christmas. And yes, they look like they're definitely going to go up, and very well deserved as well. Some good football played at Adams Park on Saturday, though.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was a very good, very entertaining game. And I think, we can take credit from the fact that actually we've now had a couple of clean sheets in a row.
Yeah, Joe Jacobson starting the game wasn't planned to, but Jordan Obita was taken ill, so a late replacement. And it's brilliant that we can have somebody like that coming in, and and he just gets on with it. There's no fuss with JJ. Which made it 3 games unbeaten, and we moved on to Tuesday night. They visited Fleetwood, who really were in poor form. Yes, they were. And listening to to Phil's commentary, because I didn't manage to get that because I was still feeling a bit jet lagged, I did feel, because Phil kept saying sort of like, Fleetwood, they've been decimated by injuries and whatever, and it was a bit like, oh no, we're setting this up for being one of those games. And it did look like that, obviously, until the 94th minute, was it, that Jason McCarthy then managed to score. And I think particularly those of us watching at home on Wanderers TV definitely probably did think that it was going to be disallowed for a foul on the goalkeeper. Luckily it wasn't. I was going to say, it really felt like the decision went our way. It really did, didn't it? But that's fine, because I do believe that the luck evens itself out, etc., and we've had decisions go against us this season, and other teams have had decisions that haven't been given that would have saved us. So I'm not suggesting that we should have VAR in League One or anything like that, but goodness me, on Tuesday night, thank goodness we didn't. Let's hear from the goal scorer, Jason McCarthy, speaking to Phil afterwards. We were banging on the door all night. We had some really, really good play, and we deserved it. Just so happened that I was on the end of that one, and I'm very grateful that we got the win, and that's the most important thing. I think the way we've won it as well then at the end is good, and it's going to take us good momentum into the weekend, and it's another clean sheet as well. So I thought we played brilliant tonight. We really deserved that win. I think if we would have come away without the 3 points tonight, we would have been gutted. So, yeah, delighted to get the win.
Wycombe had spurned some clearer cut chances earlier on in the game. The pressure cooker of injury time when you really needed 3 points. Talk us through the goal. How did you remain so calm?
Dobbo's says, them ones there that are bouncing, he says keep your head down and pass through the ball. So I remember the ball was bouncing, Dobbo's voice was ringing in my ear. So I just thought, you know what, keep your head down, get a solid contact. Yeah, went in.
Really, you had the voice of Richard Dobson at that stage of the game going through your head?
He says it a lot. So when you get them ones in the training ground, yeah, he said that from my first spell. He's been saying on them ones bouncing, keep your head down and, you know, trust your technique and play through the ball. So yeah, I had Dobbo's ringing in my ear there. So yeah.
I mean, I would normally ask about the belief in the squad now, but there's so many late goals at Adams Park. It would have been unusual for Wycombe not to score. Yeah,
I know. Yeah, well, we've just got an incredible togetherness. Everyone knows about that, and team spirit. And I think when it gets late on in games and we're still in the game, I think we kind of know that inside each of us. I think we kind of play on it and we know it. I think the crowd knows it, and we never give up. That's our attitude here, and if we want to get in them playoffs, we need moments like that, and it's just carries good momentum, I think, into Saturday. So yeah, bring on Saturday.
So first goal for the season, but also a clean sheet as well. That's 14 now for the season for the team in League One. A perfect night. Yeah, well, you know, we're talking in there to Stocko, and we want to try and get him that number one. I think he's joint top now, so we want to get him that number one for clean sheets this year. And yeah, 3 out of 4, which is really good, really positive, and you know, 1 goal conceded in 4 games. So if we can keep that foundation and that base, I think we're going to give us the best chance now going into the last 8 games. So it's brilliant, but we need to keep it going, and we've sort of set our standards with that now, and we can't drop below them. We need to keep that solid base, and you know, the 2 in front, it's the whole team. You know, everyone contributes to a clean sheet. It's not just the back 4 and the goalie, it's the whole team, and you know, we're all on that clean sheet mentality at the moment, and I think they're showing in our performances. There's not many chances being given away. It's not just like, you know, we're getting a clean sheet and you know, Stocko's under pressure constantly. He made a couple of great saves tonight, but we're sort of trying to restrict the chances against us as much as possible that contributes to a clean sheet.
Really nice to hear Jason McCarthy saying that they're actually aiming to help David Stockdale get to the clean sheet number 1.
Yeah, Stocko
for Christmas.
Stocko will be very pleased for that. Stocko's Christmas number 1.
But no, that would be fantastic if you know, to have achieved that.
Yeah, oh, definitely, absolutely. Really interesting to hear him talking about having Richard Dobson's voice in his head, and I think that's one of the big frustrations that actually, as a fan, is when you see those chances that you think, oh, you know, this looks like a good chance, and it balloons not only over the bar but over the valley terrace, you know, into the woods behind, and it's just like, oh goodness me, you know. So really interesting to hear Jason McCarthy talking about, you know, just getting that ball, keeping it down, and sure enough, he did.
And noticeably, there's been a change in the style of play, hasn't there? Things have certainly been sort of mixed up a bit, and Gareth, we'll hear from him in a short time, you know, saying that they're being unpredictable to play against.
Yeah, and I think that's really good. And I think, again, for all of the fans who were a bit questioning during the really bad spell, well, again, that's why we're lucky to have Gareth as a manager, because he doesn't just keep sort of like banging on the same door, as it were, and does then mix things up. And, you know, it's definitely, it is now working. Really interesting to see that we've had Anis Mehmeti playing, you know, and then Brandon Hannon being able to come on. Well, he's a fantastic player to obviously to have on the bench and to bring on late on. So yeah, I think hopefully we're just hitting form at the right sort of time. Clearly, of course, could really, really do with 3 points against Portsmouth. They are currently 7 points below us.
Yeah, because they lost Tuesday, didn't they?
Yep, they did. But clearly they still will have eyes on the playoffs, and they will be looking at the game on Saturday and thinking, well, for them, that's definitely a must win.
Ipswich up, I'd say, probably.
Yeah. I think that you look at sort of Bolton Wanderers, who are now 11 points off in 11th place, and you think, you know, it might be a bit of a stretch, but I agree. I think Portsmouth, Ipswich, ourselves, Sheffield Wednesday, you know, we're all looking to still get in there. The fact that actually 3 of the 4 teams in the playoffs have all got 68 points, only MK Dons with 73, but Oxford United played 38, 68 points, Plymouth played 37, 68, Sunderland played 38, 66. You know, it's still all to play for.
We want a few of them to drop some points, Sammy, because
we really do.
Especially reading the classified football results on a Saturday, you tend to see, rivals, they keep winning, they keep winning, they keep winning.
Yeah.
And it's like,
or that frustrating thing that after like 15 minutes they're 1-0 down, and you think, oh great, hooray, they're losing, and then they come back and they win 2-1. And that's always very annoying.
Spoke to manager Gareth Ainsworth this morning, getting his thoughts on this last 4 games. Obviously unbeaten in 4, clean sheets in 3, 3 wins and a draw.
I mean, just the reaction to the mental side of the boys, maybe worrying that feeling the pressure that was coming after the 4 games previous to that. A couple of defeats in there, and obviously a couple of draws, which we were the better team by a long way in those draws, but we just didn't get what we deserved, and so the reaction of the boys just to stay focused, stay believing, and just stay, that's it really, staying focused on what we're doing and believing that, after 46 games is when we're going to be judged, and not after 4 games in the middle of January, So that was a big thing for me, and I'm pleased that they've come through it. And you as a manager, you always look at the big picture, you never look at micro pictures, but I'm sure in the world with social media and chat rooms and press criticism that the boys look at, which I absolutely don't look at ever. It surely is a tough place for some of them sometimes, but it's my job then to make sure that they stay grounded and they stay believing what we're trying to do, and thankfully that they've come through that period in a real good way, and really proud of them at the moment.
Does it feel like some real momentum is being built at the moment? And as you say, the players are playing with more confidence now than the previous period.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, real momentum. Yeah, obviously 4 games there has been great, and it's just been a real sort of great place to be at the moment. And we always feel like we're going to score goals. We always feel like we're going to sort of get the better of teams. We've got some good players on our side, and we're sort of unpredictable at the moment the way we're playing, and that's been really good. I think we're on the ball. We've been a lot more comfortable, a lot more confident, and that's just the players. We've worked hard on it in training. We've got them in a couple of times on the Tuesday before the game, which I haven't done in recent years. Really, I've got them in and worked on specifics, and those specifics have paid off. So I think it's an all-round thing, rather than picking out any individual. It's a real team thing. And again, the boys who aren't in the squad and the boys who aren't getting on are very understanding. They're very patient and really invested in being part of the team. You saw that with the celebrations at the end there on Tuesday. It was fantastic to see all the subs sprint down and want to get involved because they know they've played their part.
And that shows, doesn't it, a real feeling of togetherness and also the great character that you've got throughout the squad.
Yeah, the timing of the goal, I mean, we always believe, honestly, we really do. And the match itself, we had the better chances and we probably should have scored early on in the game. And but 93rd minute, 94th minute winner, it's always a nice time to score because you know that the game's almost dead then. And like I say, the togetherness is never in question here. But time after time, we seem to come up with these late goals and these brilliant celebrations. And that was a fantastic moment. And I think that's a real big result as well because obviously we don't play next weekend, and that's going to be a day where we're going to be frustrated if teams start picking up points around us. So it was important to get those 3 points on the board.
And great to see so many chances being created as well, and shots throughout the number of games, but also clean sheets at the other end as well. Yeah,
the defensive side of the game just as important as the attacking side. We know that, and the clean sheets have been awesome lately. They really have, and we haven't slipped up much this season. We're in 3 games we conceded 12 goals or something, or 13 goals, which was 12. I think it was crazy to think about, and after that it was back to normal. We've done really well this season, and people have obviously still got to understand what we're trying to do here, and getting close to the championship is fantastic. I keep saying it for Wycombe Wanderers. It's our first season ever, really, where people have expected a little bit, and that's tough to deal with sometimes. But we're dealing well with it, and again, like I said, my job is to keep the pressure off the boys and make sure they're just enjoying their football.
And you've had a pretty settled side in the last few games as well, which also bodes really well for the last 8.
Yeah, definitely. We've got selections, Sully Kaikai's, Dominic Gape's still around, not getting in the squad at the moment. Jordan Obita missed out with illness, and so even those three names, you're looking at thinking, wow, they could get in any League One side and in any League One squad, and so me having to leave those out is a real wrench for me, but it's also a testament of how strong the squad is, so. There will be rotations and everyone's going to be needed, everyone's going to be used, I'm sure, but just waiting patiently and sure as footballers, when things are going well, it's difficult to change too much.
And Portsmouth seem to be a team of real kind of mixed fortunes. 1 week they're winning by quite a margin and they suffer a heavy defeat. It must be quite strange kind of judging how they'll be when you face them on Saturday.
Yeah, they're a big side, obviously one of the biggest clubs in this division, without a shadow of a doubt. So, this is truly us going down to Fratton Park, which, we've done often and we've had a decent record down there. But, make no bones about this. They're a big side in this league, and you only have to listen to people talk about Portsmouth. They're still amazed that they're still down at this level, and it's themselves, Sunderland, Sheffield Wednesday, some huge sides in this league. So it'd be great for us, and again a great day for the Wycombe fans. Not far to travel down to Fratton Park and experience what is a big club, but putting Wycombe against it is on a level at the moment. I'd say is great to be able to see, and I thought we had the better of the spoils in the home game. We missed a penalty and we had a lot of chances, and sort of nicked one at the end there. But hopefully we can turn the tables on that result, because it'd be nice to go into the sort of 2-week break on the back of a win.
No, definitely. And just finally, just a couple of sort of off-the-field things. Thanks again for your time on Saturday. It was great for you to spend time with the Disabled Supporters Association. I know it meant so much to them, and they were really chuffed to see. And also, David Stockdale pledging his support to the Ukrainian collection in the town this week. That again, that really shows how sort of part of the community the club is.
Yeah, everyone has their own careers and their own finances, and David's just a fantastic guy and a little bit of a philanthropist when it comes to causes. He's been absolutely fantastic, and he'll do it to represent Wycombe, not to represent David Stockdale, and that's the man he is. He's a top guy, a real rock at the back for us in the goal, but brilliant that he's able to help out with the various causes. I remember him doing the One Can Trust earlier on in the year, and the homeless shelters. He's just been amazing, and people probably overlook that side of David, and they'll see this goalkeeper, this big guy, and he gets a lot of stick from the away fans when he's there, but takes it on the chin. But deep down, cracking guy. Like I say, a real big part of the Wycombe family, and really proud of him. So it's a great cause, and I'm sure more people will follow his lead.
And especially with the news being so bleak at the moment, a big thank you to you and the team as well. A last-minute winner on Tuesday, it really gives everyone a lift.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. Football does that to people. But again, I think one of our big strengths here is realising that there's some huge, important things going on in the world, and we're a minor one. If we can put smiles on faces for a few minutes, that's brilliant. But as I've always said, football is really important to me, but there's so much more that's important, and we've got to keep those values, and I'll be making sure that the boys do.
Really nice to hear from Gareth on Saturday, chatting on Rob's show to the Disabled Supporters Association. If you haven't heard it, I recommend it. If you check out the website, wycombsound.org.uk, there's a clip on there. Gareth came out just before the game on Saturday and spoke to the Disabled Supporters Association, who were on the show with Rob.
And I know that I made a slightly, not really flippant comment, but a comment earlier on about the ownership of other clubs. But one of the things that it really made me think when I was sitting down with Rob in his front room in Louisiana was just actually, we are very, very, very lucky. We have owners that clearly absolutely do care 100% for the club, and we have wonderful employees as well. The fact that Gareth did that, the fact that David Stockdale was talking about his fundraising efforts, we do have a club that...
David Wheeler did that thing, didn't he?
Yeah, with the school meals. We have a lot to be very, very proud of, and yes, of course, we're not going to win every game. Even Manchester City aren't going to win every game, but actually, the club that we support, we can be very, very proud of everything that they do, and we are very, very lucky to have the Couhig family involved in Wycombe Wanderers, because you look at so many other clubs, particularly thinking of clubs like Bury and Macclesfield, and Rob talked a little bit more actually when I was with him about Bury, and just said, it was completely just crazy what the situation that was going on there, and and as soon as he spoke to the person who was owned Bury at the time, he just knew that wasn't for him. And so, we are very, very lucky.
And talking of things to be grateful for, two players whose careers at Adams Park will be celebrated in the next coming home games. Doncaster Rovers, of course, a special game for Adebayo Akinfenwa, who, of course, will be retiring at the end of the season. His last dance. And then Matt
we're getting
Bloomfield
there now with the last dance.
On Good Friday as well. He's obviously been a fantastic servant. Mr. Wycombe.
Yeah, I mean, those are going to be very, very emotional games, aren't they?
No, definitely. But ones to look forward to, and to really celebrate what both have given to the club as well.
Yeah, completely. Absolutely wonderful servants. And have done more than we could ever repay them. So yes, thanks very much to them both. And definitely, I would imagine that there'll be a lot of people at those games. One other game that we haven't mentioned.
Oh yes,
is that Wycombe, of course, are away in the Berks and Bucks FA Senior Cup semi-final when they go to Ascot United's racecourse ground, not the one in Wrexham, but the one in Ascot, and it is actually on the racecourse. It's a really interesting place to go to. Tickets are still available. Adults £8, concessions £4, under 16s £2. You can get those tickets by visiting the Ascot United website.
That's another notice board section there.
It is, yes, sorry. That was one that I forgot from earlier on.
Do join us next week. We'll be looking back on the Portsmouth, win, hopefully.
Hopefully, 3 points.
We'll hear more of Rob's chat with Bob,
as Frankie Howard would say.
In Louisiana. Hopefully you'll got over your jet lag by then.
Yes, hopefully. Yeah, still not quite sure what the time is.
Final words?
Is it 7:45? No, you see, I don't know what the time is.